Hat, check. Sunglasses, check. Notes, check. Pepsi, check. Sources, check. Thick skin, check. Oh, and one more thing. 10,000 subscribers, check. Let's go! Hey, welcome back to Golden Blue Dude with your humble host, Golden Blue Dude. And if you're a diehard college football fan, this is the place for you. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button because that's all we do here. Quick reminder, I do now have a P.O. box, so you can send me stuff to display on my back wall. So represent your team and send your gear to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina 29657. You know, I admit, I've been kind of gloom and doom on the ACC here recently. I've been high on them at one point and then low on them on another point. But I looked into the situation, and fans of teams in the ACC might actually have a lot of hope as far as the ACC being that third power conference. We already know the SEC, the Big Ten, they're going to be fine. The question is, can another conference survive with them? Is it going to be whittled down to a Power 4, a Power 3, or just the SEC and the Big Ten? Ultimately, it might be the SEC and the Big Ten, but we're going to go through phases. I think there for a while, we're going to have at least a Power 3, maybe a Power 4, but at least a Power 3. I think the Pac-12, their days are numbered. I think they're going to be picked apart. They might merge with the Mountain West and stay the Pac-12, but I think they're going to lose their status as an Auto 5. It just won't meet the criteria. But I'm going to give ACC fans 6 reasons why they have a lot of hope. Not just hope, maybe actual expectations. The first thing is ESPN backed out of the Big Ten TV deal negotiations. That means they have some extra money that they can throw either to the Pac-12 or the ACC. And with the Pac-12 going under, maybe their focus shifts to the ACC and they funnel more money towards the ACC because ESPN still wants to make money. That's the bottom line in all this. These TV networks want to make money. So they're not going to throw away a product that they've already invested a lot of money into. We'll just take the loss. No, they're going to try to make it successful. Second thing is, the grant of rights can't keep teams from coming in. The grant of rights has been a subject of a lot of conversations over here. But the one plus thing about the grant of rights is it can't keep teams from coming in. The ACC can add teams, and the grant of rights won't mess with that. Now, those teams would have to sign those grant of rights once they join the ACC. But hey, as long as they're good with that, they can join the ACC. Third thing is ESPN is talking about renegotiating that TV deal with the ACC. They're talking about investing even more money into the ACC, trying to keep a lot of these teams happy. I know they're thinking about shortening the deal to maybe 2029, but still making more money could entice other teams from other conferences if it means making more money in the ACC. The fourth thing is ESPN has come out and said they want the ACC to succeed. They flat out come out and said that. I mean, after all, they've invested a lot of money into the ACC network. There was a lot of issues as far as how they actually launched it and distribution, but they've invested a lot of money into the ACC network. And that brings me to number 5. Comcast/Xfinity signed a distribution deal with ESPN/ABC/Disney. So there's the answer to a lot of the ACC network's problems. The ACC has gotten a lot of flack because of the product they actually have. A lot of teams are down. Miami needs to come back. Florida State needs to come back. Louisville needs to come back. A lot of these teams are down, and Clemson has had to carry the ACC. Clemson was a little bit down last year, and it's not a coincidence that the ACC missed the playoffs because of that. But the main thing is distribution. Even though they have the ACC network, it's not available to a lot of people. Well, now it is because that deal was signed last November. And this is going to be available to over 90 million households. So that's going to help the ACC network more than people realize. The final thing is, going back to the grant of rights, the ironclad grant of rights keeps teams from leaving. Nobody has been able to figure out a way around the grant of rights other than a certain amount of teams voting against it. Of course, as of right now, they have not been able to reach that number. Maybe they are able to reach that number, and then that reason goes away. But as of right now, nobody's leaving the ACC. A $500 million buyout, that's not going to happen, especially if you're looking at multiple teams leaving. That other conference is not going to shell out $1 billion for 2 teams to come to their conference. That's just not going to happen. So there are some things that are in the favor of the ACC as far as staying alive and possibly adding some teams. Speaking of adding some teams, order of importance as far as adding teams as full-time members of the ACC, including football. So you already know what number 1 is, and that's Notre Dame. They have an affiliation with the ACC, but if the ACC were able to get Notre Dame to join full-time as a football member, that would be a game changer. The ACC would be a much bigger moneymaker. I mean, through the roof. It changes the entire game. Notre Dame would be the savior of the ACC. They wouldn't have to add anybody else, to be honest with you. And I don't think those higher brands would want to leave because the money that the ACC would be making would be enough for those teams to stay. So number one, without a doubt, would be Notre Dame. Number two, I think, is West Virginia. West Virginia is the best brand remaining in the new Big 12. They have the biggest fan base size. I've already done a video on all this stats that I'm quoting you right now. They're top 3 in revenue making in the Big 12, and they would fit directly into the ACC. And not only do they bring their fan base and their revenue, but they would create more revenue and more interest from the fan bases that are already in the ACC. I'm talking about Pitt, Syracuse, Boston College, Virginia Tech, Miami, Louisville, and probably a bunch of other teams that aren't necessarily rivals of West Virginia that would love to play West Virginia. So they bring their own value, and they would bring up the value of the fan bases that are already in the ACC. West Virginia is definitely number 2. Number 3 would be Oklahoma State. They have a very big fan base. Their boosters are extremely rich. They would bring in a lot of money into the ACC. They would stretch the footprint of the ACC to the Midwest. Oklahoma State would be a great addition to the ACC. I think they would have to be in the top 3. Number 4 might surprise you, but I'm going to say UCF. And UCF isn't a Power 5 team just yet, but UCF has a ton of potential, and it would make a lot of sense because Disney is in Orlando. Where's UCF? Oh yeah, it's in Orlando. Disney is affiliated with ESPN. It would make too much sense for UCF joining the ACC, and it would strengthen the footprint of the ACC in the state of Florida. The question is, would Florida State and Miami be okay with that? Number 5 is Baylor. I think Baylor's brand is at an all-time high. They just built a new stadium not too long ago. They won the national championship in basketball a couple years ago. Won the Big 12 last year. Baylor's at an all-time high right now. That's a footprint in the state of Texas. Makes too much sense. I think Baylor would be a big-time get for the ACC. Number 6 is Texas Tech. And the only reason I don't have Texas Tech above Baylor is because they're even farther west. So that stretches the ACC even a little more, maybe uncomfortably. But Texas Tech does have the second biggest fan base. They have some rich boosters. It would be a great get for the ACC if they were to get Texas Tech. Number 7, staying in the state of Texas, TCU. Once again, footprint in the state of Texas. It's just one of the lower brands. If you can't get Baylor and you can't get Texas Tech, get TCU. Number 8 is going to be Cincinnati. Cincinnati just made the playoffs last year. Problem is they have the smallest fan base in the new Big 12. But they have a great footprint. It would stretch the ACC into the state of Ohio. Great recruiting in the state of Ohio, so it opens up that gate even more. If Cincinnati could gain more fan support, then they would be even higher on this list. Number 9 is Houston. Once again, in the state of Texas. They're just one of the lower brands. But hey, it's at least worth a footprint in the state of Texas. Number 10, this is where Kansas comes in. They are a very, very big basketball brand, but their football does hurt them. But the ACC is known for basketball, so Kansas, not a bad pickup, and it does stretch your footprint in the Midwest. Number 11, Iowa State. Iowa State is a big question mark. They do have a decent fan base. It's not that large, but it's decent. They got some good boosters over there. It's not a bad pickup, but not one of the best. Number 12, Kansas State. Kind of the same reasons as Iowa State. If you're going to take a team out of the state of Kansas, you're going to take Kansas. But Kansas State is the number 2 option, and of course, it is in the Midwest. And finally, the last option would be BYU. I mean, it just doesn't make all that much sense for the ACC to pick BYU, but it does stretch your footprint way out west, so that's something. I just don't have BYU high on this list because I don't think it helps the ACC all that much. Y'all let me know in the comments section, do you feel a little bit better about the ACC's chances of staying a Power 5 conference for an extended amount of time in the future? And do you agree with my list as far as the teams in order, as far as being important for the ACC to pick up? That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.